Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And we are joined here once again by our friend Todd Malloy. He's the founder and clinical director as well of Inner Peace Counseling Center, based out of Huntersville, North Carolina, correct?
Correct. It's basically the Charlotte area of North Carolina.
Beautiful. It's a pleasure to have you back here. We had a little hiatus. My apologies. I went on vacation. Well deserved, well needed, which I think you would agree, right?
Oh
As
yeah,
a
most definitely. Most definitely.
Yes, absolutely. In order to deliver the best, you sometimes have to take a break, and I'm sure you're a
Very,
firm
very true.
believer in that. So
Always
please,
self-care.
exactly. Please introduce yourself to our listeners to start.
Hey, yes, my name is Todd Malloy. By full title, I'm a licensed and business strategist, but ultimately the underpinning is I'm a clinical psychotherapist, certified sex therapist, and certified sexuality educator. I actually work with positive, growth minded people, helping them to achieve their goals both personally and professionally. Too often times we're not always able to manifest who we are inside. I'm that person that facilitates giving you permission and the tools necessary to be successful in the many layers of your lives.
Beautiful. Well, we're excited to talk today.
Thank
Let's
you.
just remind our listeners how we can reach out to you to start.
Yes, I can be reached at innerpeacecounselingcenter.com. Please feel free to reach out to me on Todd Malloy on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or please feel free to reach out to us at 704-937-2286.
Great. And I know today we're going to talk a little bit about equality, especially when it comes to gender in a sense, women's equality in a sense, especially professional
Yes.
women in the workplace and solutions and the importance of that. So
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
have you
most definitely.
start by talking about that challenge that a lot of us do
Oh,
face.
oh yeah, no. And actually I thought about you. I thought about you when I was writing this. And you being a woman, you being a professional woman, and when I look at your resume, I perceive you to be successful.
Thank you.
However, we have to be honest about the society we live in and the challenges we have as unique individuals. Too often times we pretend we're a homogenous society when we're actually not. Each of us are having our own different experiences and having our own challenges, and oftentimes wonder how systemic things can are open to facilitating our collective success as a person, as a professional, and as an individual, which is oftentimes challenging. Specifically speaking about women, professional women, women in leadership, women statistically, and that's very clear, that women have a double standard, or they're not treated as equally based on gender stereotypes, based on being in the workplace and leadership, and those things are often defined as masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And and again, oftentimes I also look at the way women are raised. They're not really Women are taught to pleasure, not be pleasured. They're taught to submit, not assert.
Yeah.
And sometimes, which then, as they're progressing professionally, personally, creates its own disturbances because you find a conflict of how you were reared, how you're programmed, versus what has to actually happen in society. So, oftentimes there's a level to override and to slow myself down just a little bit. I think it's very important to talk about right now acceptance. In life, we cannot pretend that certain things don't exist. I think the best way to solve it and to address it is to acknowledge the truth of it. Once you understand the terrain, then it's much easier to navigate through the minefield to be successful. In saying that, what I'm really saying is to be honest with yourself about the environment that you're in and the game you're looking to play, and truly start to believe in yourself and your resume. As we talk more, women often deal with a lot of imposter syndrome. So truly validating their own experience and believing their truth can be
Mm-hmm.
challenging, which also facilitates that. Also, as women are progressing and seeking positions of leadership, is really to be open to how that really has to manifest, because sometimes some people have to step outside of the corporate setting, the political setting, and create their own businesses, create their own opportunities outside of the typical growth patterns. But the key part is to really understand the game you're playing, do the research, do the understanding, and then be willing to assert yourself in your unique organic way, not like someone else's, but understanding your truth, be confident in your process and be confident in the research that you've made, and then actually assert that, because no one knows you're in the room until you show up. But it's not until you have that sense of confidence, irrespective of the playing field, will people acknowledge you, and again, create and allow it to create the opportunities you're looking for.
Yeah.
And again, Jill, I want to ask you a question. How does this relate to you generally, not specifically, but generally, as you're talking with your peers and so forth? How how has this double standard impacted you, or has it ever impacted you?
Oh, in
And
so many different ways. Absolutely. The biggest thing I would say, honestly, is the pay gap in my
no,
business with female to male, which you find a
mm-hmm,
lot of places. And upon learning
mm-hmm,
a coworker who was younger than me, less experienced than me, that he was making significantly a lot more than me, it was shocking, but there's nothing I could do about it. I couldn't go to the
no,
boss and complain saying, I just found out that he's making this. Why? And
mm-hmm,
then by being friends with the news director's assistant to find out the other salaries of the other men. And I was shocked, and she's shocked that every man made more than us women.
right. And
And
then in the process of coming to that awareness, you had to make a choice.
mm-hmm,
And you had to figure out a way to package that frustration, that hurt, that pain that did not sabotage your forward progress.
mm-hmm. But I kept my mouth shut, and I don't work there
Mm-hmm,
anymore. But it made me learn a hard lesson to know my value, know my worth, and next time around when I get a job, to make sure that I value myself
mm-hmm.
and speak up
Right.
ahead of time. What this is
Oh,
what I want, what I believe I'm worth. We'll talk about it from there. But I just felt, wow, it was
right.
everyone.
Right. And the point is, you believed in yourself. You are open to other opportunities.
Yes.
Skills are transferable, even if you
Mm-hmm.
had to switch industries. I have a skill set, I have tools, and I'm open to the playing field. And
Yep.
again, I accepted what was going on in that situation, but I created something that was more palatable for me.
Yep.
Something I've also came across is where I find that in my years of doing this, women don't trust women,
Yep.
which is kind of, I hear it. I hear it a lot of different ways. Funny, some not. But I think it's important for professional women to really create a network of women that they can validate and trust, and really understand their individual moral value, their integrity, their value system, and connect with people of women of like mind that share similar experiences. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I have a client right now, a young woman who has film and documentary production aspirations, which she's actually moving very well. But in
Yeah.
the midst of that, I shared with her the importance of connecting with other people in the industry, women that are
Yep.
leaders, or even in similar industries. So
Yep.
this young lady sent emails, introduced herself, set up impromptu Zoom meetings, even took a few people out to lunch to interview them. Also allow them to interview her to see if it's a good fit for mentorship and guidance through this process. And she's gained a lot of success in doing so. However, she had to take the risk of being disappointed. She had to take the risk of, even though she doesn't trust women for varying reasons, recognizing that you can't base everybody based on certain experiences, and to be
Wow.
open, because the thrill of attaining a goal should override the fear.
Yep. You're right.
Because again, why sabotage your own growth and development? Sometimes we have to wrestle with ourselves, because if we don't, the cost we pay may be the goal. That fair?
Yep. Absolutely.
Also, something I've also found is when it comes to sales, sales perspective and generating revenue and asking for money, again, statistically, research shows women typically have an issue with really assessing and establishing their value, or their value of what they're presenting.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to their own insecurities and really being confident in the truth of who they are. again, this is another branch of imposter syndrome. I oftentimes challenge people that when you're in a room or you're in a position, you've earned it. Nobody gave it to you. And
Yeah.
it's important that they believe and understand their value. It'd be better to ask for exorbitant sums of money and let people work you down than
Hmm.
give a number and then someone says, "Oh, okay." But when they say, "Oh, okay," like it was simple, means that there was money left on the table.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Wow.
You know,
Wow.
so, when they accept it, there's money on the table. So the thing is, why not start high? Because in truth, if you've really done your homework and done your research, you recognize the cost and the value of what you're offering. Why minimize your own experience and minimize your truth and your knowing? Because if you
Mm.
dismiss your own experience, you give people permission to dismiss you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
Wow.
know, being Let me ask you a question. You
Sure.
present number four was being confident. You present extremely confident. How has that evolved throughout your career?
It's just me. My mom always said when I was little, I was always not scared of people. I was very outgoing. I think I just had it from birth. Not everybody does, to be honest. I
Hmm.
feel confident. I can talk to anyone. I like talking to people. It's just something that's innate to me, but I know some people don't have that. So I think it's just
Hmm.
something innate for me. And I'm confident in
Hmm.
myself because I believe in positivity and doing my best and trying my best and falling flat over on my face sometimes and just trying,
Hmm.
you got to just try. So I think
Right,
that's an innate thing. Confidence with
right,
me came early,
right, right.
but
But
not always
again,
confident. Come on. I still fail. I still
right.
fall. I still fear. I still am anxious
Mhm.
speaking at events and stuff, but I guess I exude confidence, but maybe it's an act.
But
Some of
well,
it
but
may be from what I do all these years working in television. You have to be a certain way. If you're depressed, sad, crying, miserable, death in the family, doesn't matter. You still have to be on TV and perky and
right,
got it. So it is kind of an act, but I think genuinely I am confident.
right.
And I think
But
go ahead.
yeah, I don't. I wouldn't actually. I would challenge you a little bit. I don't think it's an act. What it is that I think it's an intestinal fortitude. I think it's a
Mm,
commitment to your goal and what you expect of yourself, and you're willing
true,
to take the risk.
true.
Because even in the midst of that innate ability, there were times that you were disappointed. There were times that you were let down.
Oh, yeah.
However, but then there was something in you that pushed you to keep pushing. And that's what I'm telling you. That's you to me, you believe your own testimony, or you learned how to take the frustration and turn it into positive fuel to usher you forward.
Okay.
And that's what I'm challenging women to do. If we all have successes in life, we all have challenges, we all have wins in our lives.
True.
The
Yeah.
mere fact that you make it to an adult and are a professional really means that I've already beat every emotion, every experience that exists, every hurt, every pain, every shame. There are no new emotions. But the mere fact that I went through them means I'm victorious. So when they show up again, why be dismayed? What I do is again use that as fuel and power because
Yeah.
even when I was talking to a client and when she was in college, they told her she wouldn't graduate.
Wow.
As opposed to being disappointed, she was first generation college student. She took it as a challenge. I will do it in spite of what you're saying. I will show you.
Yeah.
Because if I don't do this, I know what my options would be limited.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to value myself enough to throw caution to the wind and allow myself the opportunity to win. We have to recognize in life that there are people that may have subversive intention, particularly professionally. Even in the professional arena,
Yeah.
even though we're working theoretically to a collective goal, everyone there has an individual goal
Mm-hmm.
that and how they best provide a quality of life for them and those that they care for.
True.
But it's about adjusting, understanding the terrain, the playing field that you're in, and even in the midst of adversity, really decide if you really want what you want and how can I maneuver this? I don't like the word manipulate this situation
Mm-hmm. Yep.
to work in my best favor. Because again, I share with everyone is to stack when you're in life, Stack the deck in your favor. Why stack the deck against you? How can I take this feeling? How can I take this experience and make it work for me as opposed to against me? I'm frustrated, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, but how might that stimulate creativity for a solution? Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
just a man in your position and what you do, I just love the fact that you're so open to seeing all sides of everything, every
Mm-hmm.
ethnicity, gender,
Mm-hmm.
inequality. It's so important
Yes.
for us to be equal in so many different ways and really
Mm-hmm.
use that voice and speak up like you do. So I commend you on
Right.
that and
Right.
for having this conversation today because it can
Mm-hmm.
benefit so many people. And what
Right.
are some of the other things we could do? So advocating on our own behalf, for
Mm.
example, right?
Oh
Building
yeah. Oh yeah.
alliances. There's a lot to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Building the alliances. Again, to your point, using your voice. Again, no one knows when you're in the room unless you utilize your voice.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not seen, people want to hear you. I think I mentioned this before once we talked. There was a client of mine who had been in a very successful corporation, and if she was one step from the board of directors. And she didn't get the position because throughout the course of her career, she was too compliant. And they
Mm-hmm.
said in this role you have to be adversarial, and we haven't really heard your voice. We really haven't heard you show up. And not that you have to be aggressive, but you can also be feminine and assertive at the same time. That means that I've done the research. I understand why I want to do this. I see the benefit of this organization. I
Yep.
see the benefit of the team. And because of that, here we are. It's not emotional, it's just factual. It's
True.
speaking of matter of fact. Why is your truth not okay? Why is not your thoughts what you've invested enough? I really challenge, use your voice, because again, if you don't use your voice, you chose to be invisible. Again, building alliances, it goes
Yeah.
back to not just with women, but understanding the playing field and working outside of your industry to find people speaking. Oftentimes, if getting mentorship within the corporation, you may have competing interests.
Okay.
But establishing industry alliances
Interesting.
outside of your organization gives that conflict isn't as evident because we're in two different arenas looking for two different things at two different places. So we have the opportunity to be more authentic, transparent with one another for a collective gain. Also, when women in leadership, one of the disappointing parts in the research that I've done recently, disappointed me was of the Fortune 500 companies, there's only just over 5% of women in CEO leadership. That's in the C-suite group, being
Mm-hmm.
CEOs, COOs, chief technical operators, chief financial officers, things of that nature. And in the top 1,000, there's what 5.4, just shy of 5.5%. Saying that for the ton of women that come that have talent, skills, and ability, again, by building the alliances, by asserting your voice, by claiming and establishing yourself in the room, will begin to foster the opportunity for you to claim those positions, irrespective of the playing field. I'm a firm believer in that nothing beats excellence. The only one that limits you is
Yeah.
you.
Beautifully said.
When I look at, my thing is this, is that, you know, and I recognize as a man I'm saying this, but my transition and challenge being a person of color is not much different than other marginalized groups. I started off with a mother and father who had a ninth grade education, and then we used welfare to feed us.
Mm-hmm.
However, throughout the course of life, I still became a college graduate and taught in postdoctoral programs. I've won corporate awards and done all of these things. Not because I'm special, is because I understood the playing field and I chose not to limit myself. I chose to believe what was going on
Yeah.
inside of me, in spite of what's going on around me. And as opposed to listening to the noise around me, i.e., I'm challenging ladies not to listen to the noise around them, because who knows you better than you? Who knows your testimony better than you? Who knows your successes and your wins, both personally and professionally?
Yeah.
and your ability to win, and when does that empower you to even do more to greater heights? Because when you see little wins, those little wins build into bigger wins.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think it's very important to understand that believing in yourself is imperative no matter where you are in life, who you are in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I challenge people to believe your own resume. Why is your resume not true? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and when I was thinking about the imposter syndrome, I was talking to a client, a director, and she she shared how, and this is not even according to business, but it had a rippling effect in the business, is that her parents, her mother and her aunt came to her home. She was feeding her husband and her family. And they began to correct her on how she was cooking the food to maintain keeping her husband.
Okay.
Now, she's been in a relationship with her husband for 10 years. He seems to be happy for 10 years eating her food. However, it was interesting how they could come into her home and redirect her own truth to put her in the position of being a child when she's a 40-plus-year-old woman.
Wow.
And then as we were talking, I said, why did you not assert yourself, and how does that show up in
Yeah.
your professional life? See, a lot of these things are birthed from family of origin, environments, and rearing. And it's not until we understand that we're no longer in a submissive position, you're actually
Yeah.
in authority now, and that you are theoretically at Burger King and can have it your way.
Wow. Huh?
It's about walking in your power and affirming the validity of you having a husband, you managing a family, you managing business, you taking leadership roles. When does that count to you?
True.
And again, oftentimes the same client also wrestles with perfectionism. I don't know if that's your issue. You look well kept, you present well, but I understand the industry that you're in requires certain things.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is important to balance perfectionism. Every T doesn't have to be crossed 99% of the time. Every I doesn't. What we have to do is work in principles and recognize and balance the responsibility and excellence, but also keep a level of reality, because again, there's more to us than just working. There's more to us than just being a parent. And the benefit of this is to reduce anxiety and allowing the creative energy and the opportunity to success to be greater. Because with this perfectionism, with this heightened anxiety, and really more so as opposed to achieving the assignment, more so it's gaining acceptance. But really, it's about, here's the role, it's not emotional.
Yeah.
Here's the task: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know we want to do the most and let people see us and shine, but at what cost will you do that?
True.
Because again, women are designed to, according to research and the great John Gottman, are rapport oriented. Men are report oriented. Rapport meaning women like to hold conversation. Hey, how was your day? They tell
Mm-hmm.
you from 8:15 to 5 o'clock everything they've done. You ask them, "Oh, it was a good day."
Yeah.
When you go to a movie, women sit together, men don't. Men sit to have one space between. So understanding the differences of men's style, women's styles, and how you do, but is your style conducive to that, to the environment that you're in, and temper your actions and your behaviors for the playing field you're in, not what you do innately, but truly understand the playing field and do, I'm not saying do just enough to get by,
Yeah.
do enough, but do enough to win, because you need fuel to to balance the other dimensions of your life. And again, and I'm not sure how much time we have left,
We
but
got we got 5 minutes. Go for it.
okay, all right, cool. Trusting, and this may sound like a repeated theme in this. Trust your own voice.
Mm-hmm.
Believe you. Again, if you're not believing you, who will? Who, it says, who am I to be able to present? I hear this a lot. Well, who am I to do this? Who am I to do that? The mere fact that you're in the room means you belong.
Yeah.
You've already proven what you needed to prove. You don't have to prove anything else. There's a woman, an attorney, that got a very powerful job, and She's nervous. I said, hey, you've managed staffs of people historically. You've been doing this and you've been prepared for this. You desired it. Now that you have it, why are you second guessing your own experience?
Yeah.
Where is that? Where does that come from? I challenge my clients to do a lot of journaling. When you come across an angst, I'm achieving goals, I'm achieving aspirations, but those emotional unrest, that second guessing, that doubting, I'm challenging my clients to begin to journal. What triggered that? Where is this coming from? Because again, too oftentimes we don't want to deal with our inner self. I think it's very important that we deal with our inner self. It's not until we deal with the inner self do we have peace experientially.
Yeah.
Exact example. I'm very secure and confident in who I am. However, just because I am doesn't mean everybody sees me that way. Therefore, when I've had clients and in the midst of their struggles and their challenges, they may say some things that are directly offensive to me. Because again, I always share with my clients, there are points that you won't like me because I tend to make you uncomfortable intentionally. Because once you're comfortable in the uncomfortable, nothing stops you.
Yeah.
But in the midst of that, you put yourself in people's crosshairs. But so therefore, people have called me the N word and some other things. However, in the midst of that, me being secure, knowing what the N word means, and
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that I am not just because of who I am, and I got 13 letters to prove it.
Yep.
Therefore, you don't get the rise out of me. When you
Mm-hmm.
are secure, believing your own voice, trusting and knowing your contribution to what you do, irrespective of it being validated by anyone else, empowers you to withstand the noise around you. Doesn't allow you to be impacted the same way. Again, you choose the impact. Nobody chooses how you're impacted. People have a right, theoretically, according to the Constitution, to say what they want to say. However, you choose how you receive it, how you choose how it impacts you, and how you respond. The strength and the beauty and the power of it is when you begin to believe your own voice, the professional playing field that you're on becomes less daunting and challenging. Now it allows me to be more strategic, more cunning, really understanding the playing field to see if I'm playing on a playing field to win or not, based on you leaving one position previously versus the position you have now. This is not an arena that's going to allow me to change my goals. However, I see it is attainable, but it just may be somewhere else. I
Yeah.
was talking, I was talking to a doctor this morning, and she was sharing how she was applying to medical school and how she actually got in to her ideal position. They recognized, and this is, I'll just be very honest, she's a person of color. And the interviewers recognized that a lot of the leadership of that medical school were very offensive to people and people of color and women. And they wanted to see if, unbeknownst to her, they were really testing her to see if she could withstand the reality of this experience. So
Wow.
basically, they said they don't want her. And they said, why do you believe you can be here? And she
Mm-hmm.
just said, hey, because this is a promise and a commitment that I've made to myself. And even if you don't accept me, there will be a
Wow.
medical school. There will be a medical school that will
That
accept me.
will. Yeah.
And in turn, the director, the interviewer said, we accepted you because of that. We were intentionally trying to get you to be emotional. We were intentionally trying to check your will. And
Mm-hmm.
needless to say, she's been a very successful OBGYN for the last 10 years.
Amazing.
Again, the you've lived with you your whole life. Why doubt you?
Yep.
You didn't make it here. Wherever you attained, you didn't make it here by accident.
Yep. So
It's the
true.
choices you've made, both good and bad. You're always empowered with a choice. Make the choice that best serves your interests, where you're going, your direction, your mental and emotional stability.
Great. And unfortunately, we're out of time. So we have to kind of
Mm-hmm.
wrap it up. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Todd. Thank you.
I know. Not at all. I appreciate Jill as always. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to share, and I really hope that your listeners are really being empowered and challenging themselves to embrace who they are,
Yep.
irrespective of the noise around them,
Thank
because
you.
the only one that limits them is them.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Todd, how can we reach out to you?
Well, please feel free to reach out to me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Todd Malloy. Please feel free to reach out to me on innerpeacecounselingcenter.com or at 704-937-2286.
Perfect. Thank you so
Uh, th-
much. Pleasure speaking with you again. Good to see you here live in
always,
person, and we'll catch
thank
up
you.
again next week. Thank you for
All
today's
right, all right.
conversation.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.